Hello, people of YouTube. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. A little bit of an update. I have got my shop, the tools mostly set up where I want them. I've come quite far in that area, but the one thing that I'm still trying to finish and accomplish is setting up reliable electricity. The basement here only has a couple of different power outlets on the wall, and the one in the area of my shop, as you can probably see the wire behind me, the outlet is only a 2-prong, not a 3-prong, so that's kind of an issue. Plus, where it's tied into, it's actually taped into the old knob and tube wiring in the basement, so I don't feel at all safe by hooking up any of the electrical equipment, any of the power tools, and running them off that outlet. So my intentions are to rewire it and put in a 3-prong outlet, and in doing so, I've got a couple of other corners of the basement, one of which is going to be set up for playing video games, and I've got that mostly set up, but I need to wire outlets for that area. And then another corner we're going to be setting up for gameplay, tabletop gaming, D&D type stuff, and we want outlets over in that area as well. So rather than just running one wire all the way over to the far corner here where I'm at just for 1 or 2 outlets, I've just gone ahead and started circling the room. Now that's, buying wire, buying 12-2, which is what I'm using, and it's not the cheapest thing. And I've already spent a little over $100 in wire and a few boxes and junction boxes and whatnot to get this started and begun the process. I've gotten the circuit breaker in on the box. I've gotten wire run to the other side where the other 2 outlets are. I'm in the process of tying them together. I've got a couple of outlets already in. I've just got to tie it all together, and then I'm going to run a couple of wires, 1 junction box over in the corner by the D&D. I'm going to put a switch and wire in a couple of fluorescent lights at some point. And then the area over by the video game area, there's a light there, a pull string light. There's also wired somewhat haphazardly into the old knob and tube, and the box was hung up with nails, so it's wobbly. So I've yanked that out. I've trimmed the wire where it's connected and put wire caps on it because I don't want to mess with the knob and tube stuff. Some things are still running on that, but not very much. But I pulled the box down, I've pulled the nails out, I put screws back in there. I'm going to use that box as a junction box as well as put another light in there because the light that was in there is rather old. And I'm going to replace that, use this junction box, run a wire out to a switch, and then put more fluorescent lights in that corner. Ultimately do something similar in this. I've got a junction box that's going to end up behind me in the area where there's the wire from the outlet goes up, and then that way, and then that junction, I'm going to put a box, and I'm going to cut that wire loose from the outlet, do the same thing, couple of wire nut caps, and rewire this outlet, probably wire it, instead of it being so far under the table, wire it up higher, and then run a wire over to the corner here where the router table and the scroll saw are, so I can have some power there. So it's taking time. I need to get all that set up before I can reliably use the tools. I did try to run the table saw at one point to cut a piece of wood off an extension cord over to one of the only outlets we have in here, and that didn't go well. It tripped the breaker. Not that surprised. So first I've got to get the electrical wiring done, and then I want to get a dust collection system, and I want to put some kind of barrier around the edge of this area to contain the dust so that everything in the basement doesn't, after several months or a year, end up covered in a fine sawdust powder. So that's where I'm at. I'm working on it. It takes money. I'm not rich. Who is? But that's my progress so far. So I do have another couple of small jobs that I may do once I get the power set up. I've got some shelves I've been wanting to recreate for a while, but I've got video games on them, and they have no back, so I need to put some kind of back on them so that the games don't pop through, because my son proved that that's a bad idea. Previously the shelves were against the wall, that wasn't a problem, but the way the basement is, you just not without a lot of extra work. They're not going to be because it gets so while. So stuff to do, electricity to run, but that's where we are. So stay tuned. Hopefully it won't be too much longer and I'll start working on stuff, but it's just going to take time. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them down below and stay creative.